right, like I said, in section 2.2, we're going to be looking at how we can represent quantitative data in a graphical form. Quantitative data, so remember, quantitative data is often numerical in nature, okay? Quantitative data can be described with histograms. Now, histograms will look similar to bar graphs, but they are not quite the same thing, and I will point out some of the differences as we go. For this particular video, all we're going to look at right now is just this table. We're going to get the table filled out, and then I'm going to switch to another video for just length of uploading and answer the questions that follow. So in this particular table here, we have the average home game ticket prices for NFL teams and how often that occurs. So we've got, again, you notice a range of ticket prices. So this is a little different. We don't have categories like motivated and unmotivated. We're talking about numerical data. Okay, so we've got ranges of prices over there, and then how many different ticket prices, average ticket prices for different teams fall into that category is your frequencies. All right, so for cumulative frequency, what does that mean? Well, remember cumulative, if you think about a cumulative final or you're taking a cumulative test, that means everything up to that point. And so that's exactly what it means in this case. The cumulative frequency means everything up to that point. So in the 50 to 99 category, up to that point, there are 14 different teams that fall into that category. Okay, in the 100 to 149 category, up to that point, so kind of think from the bottom, from the cheapest up to 149, how many teams fall in there? Well, that would be the 14 plus the 7, so 21 is the cumulative frequency. So you could look at that and pretty quickly go, oh, okay, 21 teams have average prices under $150, all right? Again, for the next one, so going to the up to $199, we've got to count the 21 from before and add on the additional 5, so 26. And then how many teams have an average price up to $249, add on those additional 4 for a total of 30, and then add on the last 2 in that upper tier there for 32. Okay, relative frequency we talked about in the last section. So relative frequency is the percentage, if you will. In this case, we're actually going to leave it in decimal form, and let's go rounded to 3 decimal places. In your homework, on tests or whatever, it will tell you what it wants you to do. And so this is me telling you. So we're going to round to 3 decimal places. So relative frequency would be those 14 in the that first category out of the total number. Okay, well, notice we've got the total number down there in the cumulative frequency. This little guy right there, that's your total number. Okay, we added them all up at that point. So 14 out of 32, which ends up as a decimal being 0.438. Okay, relative frequency for the next category. So not cumulative frequency. Relative frequency is related back to the frequency. Okay, so we would have 7 out of the 32 total teams, so 0.219. And then continue down the way, so 5 out of 32 is going to be 0.156, and then 4 out of 32, 0.125, and then 2 out of 32, 0.063. Okay, relative frequency, again, related to frequency. For the cumulative relative frequency, so again, relative frequency meaning the percentage or the decimal version in this case, but because it's cumulative, this one is going to be based off of the cumulative frequency column. So this first one will be the same. It's still 14 out of 32, so we're going to get 0.438. But for the next one, we're going to take 21 out of 32, okay, using those cumulative frequencies, 0.657. And so that would mean, for example, 65.7% of all teams have an average ticket price under $150, okay? Then going down to the next one, so we're talking about 26 teams total. That would give us 0.183, so about 81% of teams have an average price under $200. And you continue up the rest of the way, so 30 out of 32 is 0.938. And then I think if you divide this next one, if you're just adding, and that's the other thing you can do, you can add up the relative frequencies, or you can actually do the division. If you do the division, you end up with a total of 1. I believe if you're adding the cumulative relative frequencies instead, you may end up with 1.001. Again, and that's if you're adding these subsequently instead of doing the division back to the start. It honestly doesn't matter. You'll get a little bit of an error, but again, as a cumulative frequency, we should always add up to 1. Sometimes it's a little safer rather than making the additions. Go back to the original data. Also, any mistakes you might have made in the relative frequency column don't get repeated in that cumulative relative frequency column. Okay. All right, so we're going to pause this video here, and then we will answer the questions that come next. And I would encourage you to do the questions that you can, and see how you can probably do A, B, for sure. C and D, you might be a little iffy, but again, I'll join you in the next video.